All right, everybody, if you don't have a Bible, now's a great time to go and get one.
I didn't actually plug in my guitar yet.
Caleb, get off of me.
It's got a little button on the plug so you can do it while it's on.
No. Weston, was that you the one? Yeah.
That was me.
That was me.
Buy yourself a frappuccino.
I don't have money. That's it. That's everybody for this.
Oh, fine. Regular one. Here's some money.
It's not very loud.
Which side are you plugged into?
You might actually
Oh, that
back.
must be so horrible for you.
FYI.
Yes.
It's like from this one goes to that one, this one goes to that one.
And then Chris
I'll hit her in the head or just like a meat. And then she did. Then she.
Now you should be done.
I need Bible.
Ooh, sweet.
I think what I was hearing was the guitar.
Broken one is mine.
How is everyone this morning? Sore from what? Sports? Who plays sports in here?
Everybody except playing the
Wow.
guitar.
That's a pretty good
Is gymnastics a sport? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Playing some instruments is definitely a sport. It's a sport. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You can put your hands down now
Yeah.
if I ask.
It's 11.
So
Seriously.
No cheer for me.
Just fill the gap.
There's like a chair there
Sit
and
there.
over there.
Oh, and there's also
right there.
My OCD.
See what?
There's one like
Just lay down and start. That'll get you in chair.
Okay. Does anyone want to open us up with prayer? Anyone? You want to, Lulu?
Nate wants to. I always. No.
Okay, Weston.
What?
Thanks for volunteering.
What?
That's the good stuff right there.
Yeah, please. Okay. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us all gather here. Thank you for letting us worship. Thank you for Daniel and his teachings. In your name, amen.
I see your face in every sunrise. The colors of the morning are inside your closes in. You are hope, you are hope. You have covered all my sin. You are peace, you are peace. When my fear is crippling, you are true, you are true. Even in my wandering, you are joy, you are joy. You're the reason that I sing. You are life, you are life. In you death has lost its sting. And oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. You are more than my words will ever say. You are Lord, all creation will proclaim. You are here, in your presence I'm made whole. You are God, of all else I'm letting go. And oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. And oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. Lord, I pray that we just open up to you right now and worship you with all our hearts. And just recognize how great you truly are and how much you really love us. Lord of all creation, of water, earth, and sky. The heavens are your tabernacle. Oh, glory to the Lord on to the Lord of heaven and earth. God of wonders beyond our galaxy, you are holy, holy. The universe declares your majesty. You are holy, holy. God of wonders beyond our galaxy. You are holy, holy. The universe declares your majesty. You are holy, holy. Lord of heaven and earth, Lord of heaven and earth. Lord, I just pray that you would speak through Daniel this morning, and that you just open up our hearts to hear what you have to say to us. And I pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Elise. All right, guys, if you don't have a Bible yet, time to get up and get one.
Yay. Hunter, you don't have to go. When you do it. Oh my God. I got stuck.
Yay, water.
What's in? Not in.
I like look at that water.
No, this is when I believe
Oh.
drink one this service, and then one I'm gonna order a
Alrighty, guys.
drink that one, and then use the other one.
We are going to read off your
Yes,
We're going to be reading off the page today. We're not reading off the screen, so you got to actually flip open, even if it's not your habit. That's what we're doing today. So flip to Genesis 15. Genesis? It's not like that's the book we've been reading for weeks.
We have?
What?
I know, right?
We're only in chapter 15. It's not like it's been months.
It's been months.
Imagine that. I love it. I love it. We're running out of chairs. We're running out of Bibles. It's good. I like it.
What?
There's still
Bibles.
How do you run out of chairs and Bibles?
No, like,
Because
there's a
people
ton of Bibles.
showed up.
That, but I mean, like, you're happy that we're running out of chairs. There's still a ton of Bibles.
Maybe you guys will like donate money.
Five Bibles.
All right, guys.
We need
We're going to be reading from Genesis 15 today. Hush thine mouths. We're going to start way over here on the left. You get to read us verse 1.
Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, "Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great."
Okay, pause right there. Does anybody know why the Lord is coming to Abram right now and just saying, hey, don't be afraid, I'll protect you? Why does he just suddenly do that?
Because he doesn't want to go.
Does anyone remember last week? How did we finish off last week? You weren't here? That's fine. You don't know. You don't just have like mad knowledge of Genesis. You're like, oh, chapter 14. That was last week. I know what that is. Anybody? Okay, last week we saw Abram and his nephew Lot split up. They used to be walking together, living together, doing everything together, but they got so stinking rich. They had like a farm's worth of animals following them around, but half were Lot's and half were Abram's. And they had workers working with all of those animals, and the workers started fighting. That's the grass my sheep was eating. No, my sheep was there first. And they start fighting about who gets what. And eventually Abram and Lot are just like, okay, we can't keep this up. Let's split. So Lot picks a place, Abram picks a place, they move. Now they're near each other, but they're not living together. They're several towns apart. So Lot is down in a place called Sodom. That is one of 5 cities that starts an uprising, a rebellion against their overlords. There was these 4 big empire-sized kingdoms over in like the area of Babylon and Persia, and they were sending over messengers to collect tax money, essentially. Forced tax money, which is much more like the mafia than it was like a government, because these empires weren't doing anything for these nations. It wasn't one of those empires where you actually get stuff from the empire. In this case, the empire was just taking stuff. So Sodom is one of the 5 towns that starts to rebel against all this, and then the kingdoms come from Babylon and Persia area, and they come over and just start wiping out city after city and say, don't do that again, better pay us next time. Huh. And the last place they get to is Sodom. And when they crush Sodom, they kidnap all the people, take everything they could that was worth anything, and they just start heading back home. But one person escapes, gets to Abram, tells Abram, you might want to come quick, because Lot's getting carted off to Babylon. So Abram raises this little mini army of like a few hundred guys, chases after the big dogs. It's 4 empires worth, so it's thousands of guys. And he catches them off guard at night, ransacks the whole camp, scares the snot out of them. They go retreating off into the wilderness, trying to head home because they're just scared. They don't know what the heck's going on. And they leave all the stuff behind. And so Abram's able to rescue all the people. Abram's able to get all the stuff back. But you know what he didn't actually do? He didn't kill everybody. So why do you think God's coming to him now and saying, don't worry, Abram, I'll protect you?
Because there's still people.
Because the guys he beat, he didn't beat in a fair fight. He beat them by scaring them and surprising them. If you go scare and surprise thousands of soldiers and take all the stuff they already stole, Abram took it to give it back to the rightful owners anyway, so he didn't take it to get rich. What do you think they're going to do like the next day or the day after that?
Go back and
Go to our
him.
get back.
They're going to come find you. I mean, if they ever figure out how few guys Abram actually has, he ain't lasting long. He is going down. So God comes to him and says, hey, Abram, don't worry about it. You did the right thing. You rescued Lot. You gave everyone their stuff back. Don't worry about it. I've got your back. So what he's saying is, you don't have to worry about trying to beat thousands with hundreds the next time. You just know I'm looking out for you. So that's why he comes to him and says that. Because that was last week, was he bit off more than he could chew. But he trusted that it was for a good reason, so he just went for it. He put his life on the line because it was to rescue his nephew Lot. And so now, it pays off. God says, don't worry, I've got your back. Could you read us the next verse? You look a little worried. Okay. Actually, could you read us 2 verses? Verse 2 and 3. They're small verses. There's only like 3 hard words in there.
But Abram replied, O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eliezer of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth. You have given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir. Then the Lord,
Dude, you're doing it. You're done. Good, you got it. That was 2 verses. You read it beautifully. The only words you didn't know were not even English words, so like, good job. You know English perfectly.
Second language,
I don't think anyone can fault you for not knowing the city in a foreign country or a name that no one has called it
She
before.
said before we came into church, she's like, I don't want to read.
This is on me, big time. It's slightly on her though, because she picked the left side. She knows I read on the left side first. Slightly her fault, just a little bit, Okay, so Abram's pretty real here. He says, God, you've made a lot of promises. This isn't the first promise, by the way. They're like, don't worry, I've got your back. That's not the first promise from God. There's been other ones, like, I'm gonna make you a nation. You're gonna have so many descendants, they will become a country. That's one of God's promises he gave him a few chapters back. He says, I'm gonna give this whole land to your descendants. And he's like, yeah, that's a great promise. What if I don't have any descendants? Then what, God?
Then your servants get it.
That's what he's looking at. He's like, I got all this stuff. I was kind of hoping to give it to my kids, except I don't have any kids. Now, we know when this all started, when he left his dad's house, when he moved off into like the desert, basically, he was 75. He was already pretty old when God said, don't worry, I'll give you kids. I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff. It's going to be great. He was already 75 and had no kids. Now, he had already been married for years, and they couldn't have kids as far as he knew. They tried. So the promise from God was like, Sweet, God's going to work a miracle. Suddenly we'll be able to have kids. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, God. Do you guys know how long it's been? Since the promise. Since the original promise. Since the original outing. It's been like 11 years. He's 86 by this point in the story. So some time has gone by. And at this point, if God says, hey, I'm going to give you kids, and 11 years goes by, you're not thinking like, is it now, God? You're thinking like, God, are you sure? Because it feels like you forgot about your promise. 11 years? If any human made a promise to you, I will give you a thing, and 11 years goes by, you think they died. Like, you don't think they're not good at promises. You think they're dead. Like, that's weird. Hi, Jonathan. Come grab a Bible. Join us.
You think they're dead.
I
Hi,
know.
Jonathan.
It's not like we're a church or anything. I saved one for you. It's that one right there. Just next to the other one.
All right.
We're
I
just
saved it for
talking
you.
about
Next to
slaughtering
the other
things.
one.
All right, so he's just got like a totally random servant, and that's the guy who's going to inherit all of his stuff, and that kind of bums him out. He wanted it to go to his kids. Okay, move on. Hunter, can you read us 4 and 5?
Maybe. Then the Lord said to him, no, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have.
Now this is an interesting point God's making. Descendant, do you guys know that word? What's a descendant?
Descendant is like the next person.
Next person in your family? Anybody else?
That's down from you.
That's down from you. That's a good general description.
All the people down.
So it's all of your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids and their. It's an infinite expression. It means anyone that is your child or your grandchild or your great-great-grandchild or your great-great-great-grandchild, and then just infinite. Anybody who comes from your family line. Now, occasionally, family lines end. Occasionally. Someone will have no kids, or they'll have kids, but those kids will die before they have kids, or something like that, and the line ends. So occasionally, it's not infinite, but usually, it just keeps going. Your descendants just keep on going. And if they don't carry your name anymore, then you might not count them. That was how it was back then. If they could carry your name, then it counted as a descendant. If they couldn't carry your name, then it didn't count, essentially. I know we're out of normal chairs, but we do have the Stack O Blue if you would like to sit down. You can just grab one off the stack there. And we do have 2 Bibles left. Come grab a Bible.
We got the couple noodles.
Oh, I didn't even see those ones. Yeah, you can't see those from over here. We got 4 Bibles left. Look at us. Go!
Wait, how many did you say?
2, because I can only see the leaning ones. I thought they were leaning on the wall. Alright. So in their culture, if you were born as a male child, you would carry the name. That's kind of how it is today. Typically, it's not always the case, but typically, when 2 people get married, they take the guy's last name. And so the family name kind of continues through the boys. And then the girls take the name of whoever they marry. Usually, it's not always the case. But usually then that family name wouldn't continue through them, if that makes any sense. Like, in my family, there's 2 girls and me as the children. And when I got married, Emily took my name. And my younger sister's married right now, and she took her husband's name, so her last name changed. So the family name does not continue on through her. And then my older sister hasn't been married yet, so we'll see. Yeah.
What if you change your own name?
Just for funsies, or like to take on your wife's name?
No, it's just for fun.
Yeah, it's a total pain in the neck. Don't even. It's not worth it. Yeah. So that's the idea. He's saying I have no descendants, but he means not just the boys. He doesn't even have any girls. This isn't just a family name sort of thing. This is like he has no kids. But God says you're going to have as many as there are stars that you can count. That's a bigger number. Now today, scientists have actually gone through and cataloged stars. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. It's not just like one man went out there and went, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, It's not how we do it. We actually have lists of stars, and it goes into the stars you can't even see. Stars that you can only see with optics, telescopes. We have cataloged. Ones you can't just stand outside and point at because they're too dim. But we can find them with telescopes. So many of them that we've actually started cataloging like their relative brightness. How bright they are, from what hemisphere, from what altitude, what season. Like, we have cataloged stars so much you could sort them on a spreadsheet with like their brightness in one column and then chop off all the ones that are too dim for you to see and just figure out how many are left, and boom, you've counted the stars. But you can't do it alone. That's the point. The only reason you could do it today is because you have hundreds of years of hundreds of scientists' knowledge all stuck onto places like the internet, and you just go pull it up. That's easy. If you had to do it by yourself, you'd fail.
Wait.
Well, okay, just stand out there at night, and the Earth is rotating slowly. So, like, as you're counting, there's stars disappearing off of one horizon and popping up on the other horizon, and they're different stars. So, like, you're not even losing them at the same rate you're gaining them. You gotta count so fast, and then the sun comes up.
That's why you
Time!
But the sun is a star.
But getting to count one versus, like, I feel like that's cheating.
Well, there's enough stars for you. One sun.
Wait a second. I feel like this is a prophecy. Does anybody know the rest of the story? We'll get there. It's one of those really long burn jokes. Okay, so
Long burn.
not a sunburn.
Oh man.
So God doesn't say you're going to have this exact number of kids. Like, okay, count the stars. That's how many kids. He's not saying that. He's saying your family is going to grow to the point where you're not going to be able to count it. Basically the same as how you are unable to count all of these.
Aww.
So that your same inability to count this is going to be your inability to count your descendants.
Wait, ceiling tiles?
No, the little black pockets in every little tile.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, now we all understand.
Don't count ceiling tiles. Don't do it. Your brain will check out for 10 minutes.
Everyone take a tile.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Weston, I think you owe me like 20 bucks.
What?
This.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133,
Your cake.
That counts down to
Punches you any way to not do that?
65, 65.
Just one time. What the heck? Why?
Alright guys, I do need you back. The next verse in the Bible might be the most important verse in the Bible. It might be.
Jesus wept.
No, that's not the most important, that's the shortest.
Jesus wept.
Different yardstick, my friend. Alright guys, Jediah, you get to read it for us. Verse 6.
Abraham believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith.
Alright, now, this is an incredibly important verse. Follow my logic here, okay? This verse says you can have righteousness if you have faith. Now, why is that important?
Righteous man.
Why is that important, that you can have righteousness if you can have faith? Does anyone know what righteousness is? What is righteousness? Someone put a definition on this for me? Just put your hand up. Don't just say it. Yeah. Holiness? Cool. It's another vocab word, though. Can we boil it down? Unsinfulness. I like that. If you know what sin is, it works. Anybody else? What is righteousness? Yeah. Being perfect. Now, it's a special kind of perfect, though. Because you can use perfect in like a bajillion contexts. I could say perfect chair, right? And the chair could be so perfect, but it still wouldn't taste as good as a cheeseburger.
How would it taste good? It's
Why would
Right?
I eat a chair?
No, but your brain already went there because you thought of a perfect chair. Flavor wasn't even on the list, right? You can be a perfect chair and it could taste like dirt and it would still be a perfect chair. It doesn't matter what it tastes like.
But it would be a chair made out of dirt.
Likewise, a perfect cheeseburger is not something sturdy enough to sit on.
Unless it's a line.
Think about
Unless
it.
it's like
A perfect cheeseburger should have a certain amount of smoosh to it. And if you sat on it, sauce would just come out the sides, right? Now, if you can retract your brain from the chair burger for just a second, realize what I'm getting at here is perfect is not just one thing, right? Perfect has context, right? Perfect pillow, perfect chair, perfect cheeseburger, perfect building, perfect person.
What if there's
Nobody's ever
perfect toilet?
And in every context,
I want a perfect toilet.
in every context, it's different. Does that make sense? I don't have to measure the same qualities to say a perfect burger is perfect that I have to measure if I say a perfect chair is perfect. Okay? And likewise, the qualities of a perfect person, that is different. What qualities would you have to measure before you knew a person was perfect? Or not perfect, right? What is the minimum list of qualities for you to know whether a person is perfect? How many of you are joking? Because this is an easy question to turn into a joke.
No, like
I will not joke.
I trust you, Jonathan. I trust you. Tell me a real answer.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is, let's say, do not sin.
Ah, thank you. It's a real serious answer. So literally, if we're going to boil this down to plain English, do no wrong.
Wrong,
Do
no do.
no wrong.
Wrong, no do.
No! You failed. You're not perfect.
Wrong, no do.
Now, here's the funny thing, okay? The word righteousness, okay, is a measure of how right and how little wrong you have. And when you say someone is righteous, that means you're saying 100% of do right and do no wrong. So you can have righteousness, right? But that's a certain amount. You got to specify how much righteousness you have. But if you say someone is righteous, do you understand the difference there?
Yes, their name is
Wrong, no do.
Suddenly, that means they have 100% righteousness. No wrong, only right. Now, this is complicated because every religion on the planet is claiming they can help you get this. Not just Christianity, not just what the Bible says. Every religion, every holy book out there is trying to help the people who follow that religion get to the point where they have perfect rightness. No more wrongness. And this is the sad truth, guys. You go to every religion there is, and it's always the same formula. Do less wrong things until you do no wrong things.
That's very specific.
That is the formula every time. I don't care what religion it is. They might have a different way you do less wrong things, but what they're recommending to you is you just do less wrongness, and you'll end up more right until one day you have all the right and none of the wrong.
Less wrong, no do. Less
Okay, there's a
wrong, no
problem
do.
with this.
I don't look.
Does anyone know what the problem with this is?
Less wrong, no do.
You can't do it.
Exactly.
That's the problem. You can't do it.
Wrong, no do.
You can't. No human can ever stop doing all the wrong and only do the right. You can't.
Wrong, no do.
You can't do it. So every time you walk into some new religion, temple, mosque thing, most people who are new look up at the guy up front and he looks so righteous that they want to be more like that person. And if they honestly think that person is perfect, they might stick around and try out the religion for a while. And oftentimes they figure out the guy up front's not perfect, and they're like, oh, well, this is fake.
Are you pointing at me?
Say something.
No, I was kind of pointing in the middle distance there.
So me?
Yes, to
Oh
Jonathan.
my
That was-
gosh.
that was really what I was pointing at there. As I
He's
said,
so
middle distance.
right.
So you figure out the guy up front's not perfect, and then you leave. But
Wow,
here's the
you're
deal.
not perfect.
The Bible is telling you right here, Genesis 15:6. This is the first book in the Bible. Before you get to the gospel, before you get to Jesus, before you get to any of the other stuff, real not complicated. Right here in the middle of Abram's story, it says, "Abram, you have faith? I will give you righteousness. I will count you righteous." What does this mean? This means Abram didn't have to make it. He didn't have to quit doing all wrong. He didn't have to become all perfect. He just had to have faith. Why is that so important? Because that's something you can do. Be perfect. You can't do it. Have faith. Actually, yeah, you can do that one. This is what's so groundbreaking about the real God, is that he saw us for what we were. He sees you for what you are. He knows you can't be perfect. He knows you can't quit doing all wrong. And he says, that's okay. I can. I'll help you. I'll cover for you. But the difference is, this isn't like a friend covering for you. This is the judge of all the earth covering for you. That's a little different. When it's just some random person who's just the same as you, it doesn't count for much. When it's someone who's absolutely perfect and is in charge of everything, then it starts to matter. That actually makes a difference if he covers for you. So he's saying, all you need to do, have faith. I'll do the rest. I will give you righteousness. Okay. Verse 7 to JR.
Then the Lord told him, I am the Lord who brought you out of
It's the real word, guys. If you're reading along, you know that's the word.
of the Chaldeans to give you this land as your possession.
What does possession mean?
It means possess.
It means to have.
To have.
The shop.
That is possess. But possession. What does possession mean?
Something that you
Yeah.
have. You have stuff.
Your stuff. All right, question for you. Nate, in your home, is there a box of tissues?
No.
Yes.
If you got home and your mom was sitting on the couch in tears, she's crying her eyes out, you ask her what's wrong, because you're a good son, you would do that.
No.
What?
No.
And she told you, someone walked right in the front door, I thought it was locked, but it was unlocked, they walked right in, they stole the tissues.
Oh my
Ran out the front door with your tissues in hand.
That's just as bad as someone dying.
Would it make sense that she was crying on the couch? It would? Okay.
She doesn't have
I didn't think it would.
Cheers, that's why.
If I got home today and one of you guys was in my house and you're like running out the front door with the tissues, you're like, ha ha ha. I wouldn't be all that upset. I
Where
would
do you
laugh.
live? Where do you live? Hey Daniel, where do you
I
live?
hope you would laugh too.
Where do you live?
And then somebody else.
I'll give you my address later. It'll be hilarious.
So,
So,
got the napkins.
follow me on this. Those tissues did belong to me. I paid for them. But like, I'm not going to be all messed up about it if you steal them. Okay? Now likewise, you can go even a step deeper into this, right? So I've got this thing from my dad.
You stole my phone.
It's a pocket knife. It's about that long. It's not antique. It's not old, but it's like handmade. It's from France. But it's like really tiny, and like the blade is really thin, like not that strong. I mean, it's mirror polished. It's super nice. I'm sure it was expensive. But it's from my dad. And that's what makes it valuable to me. That's what makes it like a possession I care about. It has like a special place where I see it every day. I always see it. And like, if you ask for it, I'll say no. However, I also have this pocket knife, which is always on me. I totally regret leaving it places if I like set it down and I don't pick it back up again, because it's so useful. It's so useful. The blade is really sturdy. It's got like a screwdriver on the back, so like I can tighten and loosen screws. And it's like I use it all the time. And if you really needed it, I would just give it to you. I wouldn't care. I'm on like my third one.
Oh, can I have your pocket knife?
They're cheap. They're useful. Do you really need it?
Yes.
I just have one.
No, I've got one with a can opener.
Yeah, okay, so you didn't really
I
need
need
it.
to
Alright.
slice this Bible in half.
But I wouldn't care about losing this. I would just buy another one. They're like $25. $35, they're not on sale, okay? It's not that
Oh, I
much.
realize how broke I am now.
But guys, follow me on this. I got this off of Amazon. The other one came from my dad. This one's made in a factory. They cost $35. The other one was handmade in France. Like, there's a difference between these two, and it has nothing to do with what they are. Functionally, this one is better. It just cuts better, it's easier to sharpen, it's bigger, it's stronger, it's more comfortable in your hand, it has a lock on the blade. The other one, if you tried to whittle, probably chop your thumb off. Like, it doesn't have a lock, the blade just shuts. Like, it is not a better knife. But why is the other one more important?
Because it's from your dad.
Right. So that's a possession. My box of tissues, it's a thing that is in my house. Okay, like I don't care about it. It's a box of tissues. If I lost that box of tissues, I'd get another box of tissues.
What if you inherited the box of tissues?
Yeah, what if it's from your great grandpa? What if that box of tissues was from your great grandpa?
What if you guys came up with hypotheticals that made sense? Whoa! It could happen.
Here, so the
I'm
knife
not
you
ruling it
bought
out,
was from your dad.
but
What if
like,
the tissue box was from
it
your
probably won't happen. Just like your hypotheticals. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, so this is what I'm getting at here. You're right. Your possessions are your stuff, but I'm drawing a line here because I think God's making a distinction too. I'm drawing a line. You answered the question, what is it? Or no, Nate answered the question, what is a possession? Sorry, Wesley. Nate said it was their stuff, and generally speaking, that's true. But I think when God says, "I'm giving you this land as your possession," I don't think He means the box of tissue style possession. I think He means the knife from your dad. Keep it special. It means something possession. I think He means I'm giving you this land, and it's going to be special to you. Because I know their history. This is thousands of years ago. And Israel has had a lot of stuff happen to it since then. They've got the land, they've lost the land, they got the land back again, they lost the land again, they got the land back again.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty cool. There's no other country on the planet that has been completely displaced and got their country back even once. They've done it twice. Think about that. No other country on the planet has had it happen even once. They've done it twice. That's pretty cool. That is how special their land is to them. It's not just a piece of dirt. It's not just where your cows get to eat grass. It's not just where your house is at. This is something that came from God as a gift and has special meaning beyond the dirt. Does that make sense? Does this follow? Like, this is from God, handed to you. He picked it. He picked you. Matched present for person. That makes it special.
Did they give them the receipt?
So, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but it's about land.
Okay.
So, if you own land, how far down do you own them?
Oh, that actually differs by country. You can look it up. Different places, it's a little different.
And so, if you just get that land and then cut it in slices and then spread it.
Yeah. No, some cities even have different rules because of where pipes are. They don't want you to be like, well, it's on my land, so I get to cut it. Like, it's a gas line. Why are you cutting it? Like, there's rules about that. Okay, it's not always the same in every place. But it's mine. Okay. So God's going to give him something special. And then we get to this verse, which totally flips the importance of 6 on its head until you get into it. So let's read verse 8. Caleb.
Oh, my.
Only Caleb.
But Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it?"
Okay, does that sound like faith?
Nope. I don't want to
Was it 6? He had faith and God counted his righteousness, and then isn't 8? No, he doesn't.
You're not right.
If I was God, I'd be like, oh,
How do you possess land?
I thought you had faith.
With a
Okay,
demon.
never mind. Yoink. You don't get it anymore. This seems like a complete reversal, but here's the deal. It's not. The first time we talked about this in 6, he had faith. The second time we're talking about it now in 8, he has doubts. Doubts is not the opposite of faith. Doubts is not the opposite of faith. See, the whole point with faith, when God says you have faith, I'll give you righteousness, is that faith doesn't need to be perfect to be faith. That's beautiful. Abram is one of our proofs. Because this isn't the first time, this is the first time where it says his faith is counted as righteousness, but it's not the last time. It says it again and again. And that tells you something. If God already knows about his doubts, and then he later can say, and his faith was counted as righteousness, that means that doubts don't undo the faith. Your faith doesn't become 0 when doubts crop up. It's there even with the doubts. This is beautiful because with the righteousness thing, you had to be perfect to have perfect. With the faith thing, you just have to have some. And God can get you the rest of the way. That's beautiful because that means it's something I can actually do. I can actually do that. If all I have to do is have sum, a non-zero number, and God will work with that, he'll make the rest happen, that means there's hope for me. Because I'm not perfect. And that applies to all things.
Or are you?
I'm not. Get to know me, Hunter. I'm not.
Or are you?
You can keep testing my patience. Maybe he'll find out. All right, so he's so honest, and I love this because the other side of this, guys, is the Bible doesn't stick someone in there and like, hey, look, Abram was perfect, and God liked him because he was perfect. Be like Abram. I'm like, oh, man. It's not like that. It says Abram has faith, and then look, 2 verses later, 2. That's it. It's not some secret other book where they're like, oh, by the way, he had doubts. It's like 2 verses later, you can't miss it, he has doubts. That means your example is the guy who did well and then did poorly 5 seconds later. Like, God gets 1 sentence out of his mouth, and the doubts come out of Abram's.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Are you following? Like, so imagine this in your own prayer life. In your own prayer life, you're talking to God, and God's like, sweet, I love your faith. I'm going to do stuff for you. And the next thing you say is, I have doubts. And then God's not going to just jump out of the conversation and start ghosting you. He's going to answer. This is the beautiful thing. His doubts are not just him complaining, like, God, I don't believe you. His doubts are, but how do I know? And think about the kind of doubt he might have right now. He could have a lot of different kinds. For one, this is all happening in a vision. I don't know about you guys. My chief doubt, the biggest one would be, what if this is just in my head? What if God's real, he's in charge, all that's true, but the conversation I'm having is a dream, and he's over there, and I'm just talking to myself? That's a serious doubt. Like, if you're having a real one-on-one conversation with a voice in your head, instead of God, how do you know?
You have to.
That'll keep you up at night. So he just asks, how do I know this is real? How do I know this is really going to happen? Look at God's answer. God answers, and I love that he answers, but his answer is not what I would have expected. His answer is not just like a, here's how you know. That'd be so simple and so beautiful, and you'd probably be like, okay, cool, I can go home and try that. Nope. His answer is real. Too real for prediction, sadly. So check out what the answer is. Other Caleb, I know there's 2 Calebs like right in a row. You get to read the next section. Read us 9, 10, and 11.
Lord told him, bring me a 3-year-old
Heifer, it's a kind of cow.
a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So Abram presented all these to him and killed them. Then he put each animal down the middle and laid the half side by side. He did not, however, cut the birds in half. Some vultures swooped down to eat the carcasses, but Abram chased them away.
Okay, how many of you predicted that was going to be the answer to, he's like, yep, I knew it. We're barbecuing things in half. Called it. Okay, wait a second. That's I'm summing it up. Just kind of shrinking it. So he says to God, how do I know this is real? How do I know this is going to happen? And God's like, go get some animals.
And barbecue.
Cook them. In half.
The real first Thanksgiving.
I would actually have more questions after that answer than I had before that answer.
I have doubts.
I don't know about you guys. If I said, God, how do I know what your plans are really going to happen? How do I know it's really going to go down the way you say it's going to go down? And God says, light the barbecue. I don't know if I'd have enough faith to just do it. That's a really interesting thing here. He's testing Abram's faith as part of the answer. Because to give an answer like this requires Abram to have faith, or else he is just going to come back with more questions. Right? If he doesn't have very much faith, he's just going to be like, wait, why? Why are we doing this? So straightforward. Is the goat necessary? Like, what? No, his faith is enough. He has some, and so he gets the command from God, and he's like, okay, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And the first thing that happens is vultures. And he's like, I don't think you were what God had in mind. Get out of here. And then he waits to see what else happens. Yeah.
The fact that it had a pigeon conveniently on
Yeah.
it is a little weird.
Someone asked last service, how do you catch a pigeon? It's like,
How do you
I don't know.
Why do you?
I've only seen like one animal in nature eat a pigeon, and it was a fish. And I don't have that skill set. I can't just like wait underwater for the pigeon, and then.
Here's how
I'm
you
not that
I
kind
have
of
so many
creature.
questions. I am.
If you guys haven't seen that one, I think it was Planet Earth 2. Crazy good. They were like giant catfish or koi or something, and they punch the pigeons with their heads and gobble up the pigeons. It's crazy. Crazy. I mean, if you want to see the weirdest nature footage ever, that's top notch. Okay, so God says do this. Abram just does it. Doesn't hold back, doesn't wait, doesn't waste time. Now, keep in mind, based on the little tidbits of timeline we get throughout this chapter, this took him all day.
Wow.
To go and collect the animals, butcher all of the animals, barbecue all of the animals, cut about half of the animals in half. He didn't cut the birds in half. I know, that's weird, because those are like the easy ones to cut in half. You throw a barbecue pigeon on a cutting board and just one chop, you're done. He didn't even do those. He had to cut the cow in half. You guys cut a cow in half?
Yeah,
Yes.
chainsaw.
I don't know how to cut a cow in half.
I have a chainsaw.
I got knives. I've never used them for that. That's not.
A cow eye. That's close enough.
Like, I can't even get a cow in my kitchen. I don't even know. Okay, so he does the thing God tells him to do. Let's see what happens. Sam, you got 12 through 16.
As the sun was going down, Abraham fell into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness came down over him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, "You can never be sure that."
No. Reread that. There's no never in that sentence. Sorry, it's like a complete opposite to what it means, so you have to reread it.
You can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land, where they will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. But I'll punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a rag old age. After 4 generations, your descendants will return here to this land. For the sins of the Amorites do not yet warrant their destruction.
Okay, so guys, follow me on this.
That's beautiful.
So why were there?
Abram is asking about a plan God has partially revealed to him. And in the partial reveal of the plan, he just lists the bullet points of what's going to be his in the end, what his descendants get at the end of the plan. God has not yet told him how long the plan takes.
It just said 400 years.
Now he has. I'm saying prior to this, he never mentioned the length of the plan. He just told him the goal at the end of the plan. Now he's telling him the timeline. And this is important because what Abram is going through is doubt. And he's saying, God, you gave me the end goal of the plan, and I've waited 11 years. And item 1 on the to-do list, right? Because the end goal is your whole descendants become a country and get this land. Item 1 is have a kid. Have a kid. He doesn't even have a kid yet. 11 years has gone by. Step 1, unfinished. So now he's starting to have doubts. Is the plan going to happen? And then God reveals the length of the plan. And suddenly it starts to make sense. God's plan was not going to happen in 5 or 10 or 15 years. The plan is a long plan. And so instead of just answering his question super direct, super short, like Abram says, how do I know it's going to happen? And Abram's like, surprise, your wife's already pregnant. Like, God doesn't do that. God doesn't just surprise him with like, look, step 1 is done. That's how you know. He says, look at how big this plan is. And then Abram has to make the leap. That's the faith part. From the the plan is cool, it's from God, I want to be on board, all the way from where he's standing. Where he's standing, nothing has happened yet. That's where he's standing. This is a hard leap. This isn't God did step 1 and the rest looks hard too. This is God has done no steps yet. That is a serious amount of faith. No steps completed. I'm going to go ahead and have faith, and he'll do all the rest. Frankly, that's crazy. Like any human that was promised something by another human, and 11 years goes by, you would not still be waiting on the promise. That's not human.
Not yet.
What? So he goes for it. He puts his faith in the plan. Now, what he's done so far doesn't even make sense. He made a barbecue. God gave him another vision. Like, isn't that what I got last night? Didn't I get a vision last night? How is a vision tonight going to help me? It might just be we've had a really bad run of leftovers and my stomach is giving me crazy dreams. How do I know this is really happening? Well, that's when we get to the next section. Jonathan, you get the last chunk here.
All right.
17 through 21.
Okay. After the sun went down and darkness fell, Abram saw a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch pass between the halves of the carcasses. So the Lord made a covenant with Abram that day and said, I have given this land to your descendants, all the way from the border of Egypt to the great Euphrates River. The land will now occupied.
Yeah, you had it.
Okay. By the Canaanites, Kenites, Hittites, Pretzelites.
Hey guys, you only know if he's wrong if you're reading along.
Yeah, it's just a lot of words.
He could be right.
Probably is actually Pretzelites. Reptilites, Emerald-nites, Canaanites,
Oh, I like the German pronunciation. That's good.
Girgashites.
Hey, Hunter knows that one. Yeah, Girgashites.
Wait, actually?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Girgashites.
Jebusites.
Jebusites.
Yeah. All right, or if you take another pronunciation, it's the Jebusites. It's the parasites, which is funny because that sounds like parasites. I want to play the game. You gotta go make the game Pretzel Night. I want to play it.
No, Girgashites. Pretzel night.
It's like Shovel Night with pretzels.
Pretzel night and
The question is, does he use a soft pretzel or a hard pretzel?
I think soft.
Yeah, probably.
These are the important questions we answer at Calvary Chapel Jesus. All right, guys, so go back with me. Abram's wondering if this is all real, and God gives him something to do that seems totally off
The wall. Off the wall dodgeball.
There's like 4 conversations going on. Bring it back.
That's right.
God gives him something off the wall to do, and he does it, and then this is where God's real answer comes in. You see, it seemed like God's answer to his question, how do I know this is really going to happen, was completely illogical and didn't make any sense. God says, do the barbecue, do all this stuff. But the answer wasn't that. He was setting up the answer. The answer was he didn't come down in a vision the last time. He came down into Abram's camp with his little ye olde flashlight and checked out the work Abram did and saw that he had actually sacrificed all the animals he requested just to inspect his work. And so Abram's answer to his question was not the barbecue. Abram's answer to his question was,
The barbecue.
you don't like the visions. I get it. It makes you wonder. It makes you doubt. I'll just stop by. That's really cool. When God just stops by your camp to help you in your faith, to make you be able to let go of your doubts, that's really cool. That's awesome. So God just stops by. He checks out his work. And it's after he gives him the whole plan. The whole plan, crazy. 400 years in a foreign land as slaves. Now, that might sound incredibly bad. And trust me, slavery is always bad. But follow me on what God does here. Because God promises him this ridiculous chunk of land. He says everything from River of Egypt, which is the Nile, all the way to the Euphrates. Okay, guys. Does anybody know where Israel is on this map?
It's right there.
It's the green.
by
Not the green.
Lebanon.
It's this little sliver right here.
It's
It's this tiny little thing.
it's the little sliver right there.
Good job. Hunter's my man. He gets it. Okay. So God promises him whoosh, all that, and in their best day, okay, like when Solomon was king, when Israel at its absolute largest, it basically went up like this. That was how big it got, like that. That's kind of it. It didn't really get much bigger than that ever, and now it's even smaller today than almost it's ever been. So God gives him the promise, and the promise, follow me on this, has not come completely true yet. Even today.
Wait, what?
What?
All right, so the 400 years thing. The 400 years thing, it happened. It totally happened. So he is here. Descendants live here. One of the descendants gets sold as a slave, which is an interesting little foretelling, and shipped off to Egypt. And he does his cool thing down there. Famine up here. Everyone's dying. The whole family goes looking for food. They find food via the long-lost family member that's living down there. They end up staying, but they stay up here. Now, I know it's just kind of a dark blob on the map, but trust me when I say that is the greenest spot on the entire section. This is all just green because I colored it green. It's a desert. It's ugly. I mean, all the good stuff is around the border. You know, near the river, near the river, near the lakes, near the sea, near the river, near the river. All the good stuff is next to the water. It's around the border. Everything in the middle kind of sucks.
So the sand is green.
It's just green because I colored it green.
So yes, it is.
Okay, so the dark spot up there, that's the land of Goshen.
The sand could be green.
How can you color sand?
That's the land of Goshen. That's where they live when they become slaves. So before they were slaves, they were still living in Goshen. After they were slaves, they were still living in Goshen. There's a period of time when they're in Goshen, this beautiful green lush land at the end of the Nile, and they're not slaves. And they live there, and they build a city, and everything's happy, and yay. And then they become slaves, and they get to keep the spot. It's still where they live. So this is kind of crazy. God says slavery is in your future, but don't worry, it works out in the end. And, surprise, where I put you when you become slaves is the best place in the entire Middle East.
Sweet.
I mean, if you had to be slaves,
But you are.
anyways, you might as well pick the best spot there is. And that's what God does for them. That's wild that he can work that out. He can look into the future and he can say, not only are you going to be slaves, but you'll also be slaves in the very best place that there is, and you'll leave richer than you go in.
Alright.
You'll leave slavery richer than before you were slaves. How does that work? Tell me, how does that work?
I don't know.
I think there are people today who would sign up for that if they had the chance.
Well,
I'm not saying it's smart, I'm just saying it sounds good, almost. It's so weird. It's so weird. And so God takes something hard in their future and he turns it into something good for their more distant future. That's wild. But the plan involves some hard stuff along the way. It's not a plan of easy sailing. There is hard stuff in the plan. This is all a reflection of your life today. You go to God, you're not perfect, you can't be perfect. He's not waiting for you to be perfect, he's waiting for you to have faith. You show him your faith, you say, will you accept me? And he'll say yes. You say, can you forgive me? And he'll say yes. And then he shows you his plan. And you can choose to walk in the plan, you can choose to doubt the plan. That's up to you. If you doubt the plan, he will help you if you ask for help. If you doubt the plan and don't ask for help, guess what? Your doubt gets to you, you walk off the plan. The plan will not be all easy. It will have hard steps in it, but the plan always goes somewhere good. And frequently, the plan is bigger than you are. You notice something about Abram here is he's not going to live 400 years. The plan is 400 years long. Abram is not. Abram is handed a plan and he's asked to follow it, even though the ending is past his life. That means on the best day, no matter how good he does, no matter how faithful he is, no matter how well he follows the plan, he does not get to see the goal. Are you following me?
Yeah.
The plan is bigger than him. That means if he follows it and he does an amazing job and he's so good and he's awesome and he does everything God asks, he still doesn't get the reward at the end of the plan.
Nothing for you.
So why would he do it? Why would he do it?
So is the stuff.
Why follow a plan bigger than you?
Because God told him to.
Bragging, right?
You know, I would almost just do it, but I think you'd have to know the future to really get how much bragging rights he's going to get. So I don't know if that would be worth it for him in that moment. Why would he do it?
So is the sentence guy.
Try and get inside of his head. Because this is the same offer God is handing you. God tells you to go off some foreign country and go be a missionary. Guess what you get? Some crazy disease like malaria. That's what you get. Dysentery. That's what you get. So if God hands you the plan and he's like, here's the plan. You ready? Let's go. And your part in the plan is malaria. That's your reward.
Go get malaria.
Would you sign up for the plan?
Yeah.
What if God hands you the plan, I want you to go be a missionary in this other country, and your reward in the plan, jail in a foreign country.
I mean, that sounds cool.
That's your reward.
Yeah.
Do people get sick?
I mean, I don't know what jail's like.
Is that big
That's the whole point.
It's that bad because you're not being shot at.
Time out. Weston had a good question. That's the whole point.
Okay.
There are things you're doing within the plan that will benefit other people. But there's no guarantee it will benefit you.
Okay. Other people get sick. Good.
Does that make sense? When God hands you a plan, he might be asking for this life of yours to be about other people and not about you. But the grand reward you get, I don't want to call it bragging rights.
Rights of bragging.
Follow me on this. When you get to heaven, you'll get to watch the rest of the plan that happened because of what you did.
So he does get to see the goal.
So it's not bragging rights like, hey, look what I did. It's bragging rights in your own head like, oh, look what I did. You get the difference there. It's subtle, right? You're not like telling everybody else, look what I did. You get to marvel, like,
See,
look what
bragging
God
to
did with
yourself.
my life. I had no idea this was going to happen.
I am a
I had no
marvel.
idea how far this was going to reach. I had no idea, like, how amazing the rest of the plan would get to be that comes out of the part I was in. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you get to watch 400 years of slavery and then getting their country and then an entire nation dedicated to the one true God that eventually brings forth Jesus Christ. That's Abram. He got to go to heaven. He got to watch Jesus Christ come from his descendants. That's what he got to watch. And his reward was not all in his life. That's the point. His reward was in eternity. Do you get what I'm getting at? His life did not include the best parts of his life's plan. His life included the hardest parts of his life's plan. So that's what God's offering you. He's not offering you the rewards here and now. He's offering you a plan where frequently you got to take the hit so that someone else can have the reward or the benefit. That's what he's offering you. It is a hard life. But the reward is infinite. The reward is true permanent. More permanent than this life. That's what Abram is for us as an example in the Bible. He starts something out of faith that is bigger than he is. And he's not perfect. I love that. We don't gotta watch some example of perfection and be like, oh, but I can never do that. We're gonna see his doubts don't end in this chapter. God solved this one doubt right here, right then, with him, because he talked to him about it. Next week, he's gonna have a different doubt and he's not gonna talk about it. Not with God, anyways. And he's gonna fall. He doesn't bring his doubt to God, and it causes him to fall. But that's a real man. He's not just some story. He's not just some character. A real man has a problem tomorrow that he thought he fixed today. And likewise, he's going to go to his wife, and even though she was right several chapters ago and did the best thing she could possibly do, guess what, next week? Not so much. She's going to falter. She's going to trust in a plan of her own devising, rather than going to God. And so we see real people on this page, not characters in a story. They fail, and God doesn't abandon them. They pick up the pieces, and they try it again the right way. So next week, we get into a failure. But for today, the point is, God has a plan. It is usually bigger than you. Are you going to accept his plan, even though you might not get to see the ending? That's a big jump of faith. That's a big jump of faith. So, bring your doubts to him. Don't sit still. Don't leave the doubt sitting in your mind, thinking, oh, well, I don't know about this, so I can't move. I'm not sure about this, so I can't go to the next step. Abram took his doubt straight to God. God answered the doubt. I love that. Sometimes, though, the answer you get from God might not be the answer you're looking for. It might be something like Abram. So Abram says, like, how do I know this is going to happen? And God's like, hey, the plan is bigger than you are. You're never going to see the ending. Just trust, and I'll get you the starting. And that might be your answer. It might be, I'm sorry, I can't get you what you want. I've got something else for you. That might be the answer. What if the thing God has for you is better than the thing you asked for?
Okay.
Could you know it? I mean, think about this. Like you, trapped in time. You can't look forward. You can't look back. You can only barely remember. If God comes to you and says, this is the best, and you say, but it's not what I asked for, can you really know better than him what the best is? This is really the conundrum we find ourselves in, because we're so trapped in time. God can see all the future stuff we can't. And so when he says, will you take it? This is my plan for you. The real faith is trusting that's the best thing. So when God does call you to some far-off place where you might die of malaria or get thrown in prison, and God says, this is the best, and you're like, that's not possible, you're wrong. If God says it's the best, it's the best. He's the only one that could possibly know what the best is, because he's the only one who sees everything that's coming. Isn't that weird? So trust. Jump out on that limb. Go out in faith. Do the thing that God puts in front of you. And when you're not sure about it, talk to him. Don't just let your doubts sit and linger and fester. They'll grow. That's terrible. Don't do it. Talk to him about your doubts. And if his answer makes no sense to you, if you get trapped like Abram with a split the animal in half kind of answer, talk to people. Talk to someone who's more mature than you, someone who's wiser than you. Get some help with the answer, because sometimes the answer's a little scary. You're like, I don't have a driver's license. How am I supposed to go to another country? Sometimes the answer doesn't make sense. That's okay. Talk to people about that answer.
Mario Kart.
Get some help. Could you guys stop chaining ridiculousness off of ridiculousness? Because eventually we're just going to be like on the moon looking back wondering how we got there without a helmet. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Okay?
And then our head explodes.
Like I said, not good.
Oh.
It's time to pray. Lord, we struggle so much with following you instead of our own thoughts. It's one of the hardest things for us, Lord, and we just want your help. Help us to follow that example that Abram had, that We actually talk to you. We ask you what the plan even is, and then we follow it in faith. Help us, Lord, to know when you're changing the plan on us, when things are not the same as they were yesterday. Help us to ask you, Lord, when the answers you give don't make sense or when our doubts get too big. Help us, Lord. We don't do these things automatically. This is not our norm. So God, just guide us by your Spirit. Use your Spirit to push our thoughts in the right direction. And help us, Lord, to have that discipline to keep the conversation with you going. To just pray to you throughout the day, talking to you about what we're going through. Help us, Lord, to not get down on ourselves, thinking that we need to be perfect, that we need to have righteousness of our own. Help us, Lord, to be reminded continually that you've given it to us as a gift. That just by putting our faith in you, that's enough. You provide the rest. Help us, Lord, to trust in that most of all. We ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Wait! I have an announcement. Sit down. I ended early. I ended early so we could stop and talk about the things. Can I have them? All right, guys, listen up. If you want to go deeper in your faith but struggling to read your Bible is real, I got this for you.
The struggle is real.
This is a 21-day Devo. Each day is exactly this long.
Oh.
That's it. That's one day.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the thing. It's like 1 or 2 Bible verses right here. And then just walking you through a thoughtful studying process. It's really big print. Like, this is not a lot of words. Get close to it. Like, this is not even a blog post.
No, that's too much words though.
Wow.
It's more than a tweet. You'd be surprised if an email came in this long. But it's not even a blog post, okay? Grab one of these if you want to start studying your Bible, but you've never had that happen. Like, you've never actually done it. You can do better than this just reading your Bible all by yourself. But if that's never occurred, this is the baby step. Okay? It's got 21 days mapped out for you. It just brings you through like 1 or 2 scriptures a day, gives you some thoughts on them, and then the pattern is set in your brain after that, and you can just start doing it on your own. You just pick out a book to read in the Bible, read through a tiny chunk every day, and you can do this on your own. You don't need a little book. What this does require you to get, though, is a notebook. There's no space in here for questions being answered by you. You got to get like a little thing to scribble your thoughts down. Like, ooh, what about this? And oh, I wonder, I should look this up sometime. Write this stuff down in the notebook. It's super useful. It's super good to have even when you're done with this and you're just down to straight you in the Bible. A notebook's awesome. You can go back through your notebook a month later and be like, oh, I prayed for that. Hey, that actually happened. And you can, flip through and I had a question about that. I never looked that up. And it's really cool to have a little notebook of all your little scribbled thoughts. I love it. Get this if you want to actually get started on reading your Bible. Okay, announcement number 2. Snacktober 31st. We're going to be here on October 31st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. eating snackage, candy, playing games. There might be a movie if you guys even feel like it, and maybe it'll just be in the background while we do other things. Oh yeah, that's what we'll watch.
Indiana Jones.
Weston is officially not in charge of picking out movies.
Let's watch Moana. Guys, let's watch Moana.
Hey guys.
No.
Quiet.
Weston, why do you have a scarf?
Hey guys. No. All the no. Shush, 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 shush. Not done. Okay, it is $5. We're gonna give you guys stuff. We're gonna buy stuff for games. So it is $5. It is also a potluck. If you want yummy food, sign up. Right now, me and Weston are the only ones signed up. So y'all gotta sign up quick. There's only so many things on the menu that need to get brought. So sign up quick so you can make or buy the thing you would like. I prefer if you make it, but you're allowed to go buy it. I get it. It's 6 p.m. Your parents probably got to work that day. You might have about 10 minutes to get from A to B. If you got to go buy something, we're not going to look down on it.
What if you live in a trailer and you're
If you all go buy a roasted chicken, though, it's going to be a little boring. Okay, it's just be real. So there is a sign up. I know, right? So grab the sign up link, ccchico.com/S31 for Snacktober 31st. S31. Head there, put your name on the list, put what you're bringing.
And
A pig.
That's it. Then show up.
myself.
Show
What if you just bring something and then
You could do do that. It'd be weird because all the fun's here. And you're leaving the fun behind. So. I know. So I'm gonna bring a turkey. It's gonna be delicious.
I'll get mine.
Buy it. There are cheapo, easy to bring things on the list, like a bag of what?
No.
Yes, cookies.
No huddle.
Hurry up and sign up because there's only one cookies. I don't want 9 of you bringing cookies.
Because he can.
Oh, we had no costumes!
Cause it can't. Oh my gosh, who won?
Dang it, I was going to do my first nightmare.
I know.
You want to play some cards? Don't you just hate it when you winner?
Yeah.
Don't you just hate it when you can't do it?
I get another Dr. Pepper.
Let's see. Look out. I almost made that go. It was teetering on 2 legs for a second.
I love all your shirts.
Oh, right, guys.
I miss this. Being out in Tennessee.
I'm glad you guys are back.
Yes, so am I.
You can't another Dr. Pepper, you're giving it to me.